It's now the time and opportunity for all of you Buddhists that have gathered here together to listen to the Dhamma, and in order to understand and contemplate that which is good and wholesome. To make your minds peaceful, quiet, collect them, point them, to just let the sound go into your ear and just hear what he's saying. In the practice of the Dhamma, that the opportunity to listen is indeed very valuable and useful. So when we come to listen to the Dhamma, that we must make our bodies and our minds very firm and stable so that we're able to listen and absorb and hear. During the time of the Buddha, when the Buddha would expound the Dharma, that those monks that had their minds in a samadhi state were very concentrated and one-pointed, that they became enlightened to the Dharma on their very meditation seats. The few days that he's had to stay here and see the place here, the surroundings, the meditation center, that he feels it's a very important place and that it's a very appropriate place for the practice of the Dhamma. Those external things, the external surroundings here, are very quiet and peaceful, and so that the only thing that is left to do is to make the internal element quiet and peaceful. We have to know the reason, to ask ourselves what we're doing here, why we're here, why we've come to try to make our minds peaceful. Because we still don't know those things which lead to peace and tranquility, so we've come here in search of that. We still don't know, in accordance with truth, what is right, what is wrong, what leads to suffering and doubts, and what is what. The cause, the reason for us coming here is because our minds aren't peaceful, are not tranquil, that we still have doubts, we still have suspicions, we still don't know. So that today, having the opportunity to listen to him expound the Dharma, that we should prepare ourselves and make our minds very firm to listen, because when he expounds the Dharma, that it's his nature to expound it in a rather forceful and almost violent way, he says. Even though he may be very forceful in his Dharma talk, that he still has a heart of metta. So that some of the things that he says, because of the cultural differences, customs in Thailand and here, may be offensive, and so to please forgive him for that. It's very good to speak in a very forceful and almost violent way, because it causes us all to be excited and thrown back on ourselves. If he was to talk very softly, that we would all just sit there indifferent to the whole matter and fall asleep. In regards to our practice, that there are different approaches, and he draws the simile to like planting a tree from a small seedling, and which will grow quickly, and we can eat quickly, and this doesn't last very long. And the next type of approach is where we plant it from the seed, where it has a chance to get its roots and things into the ground and be much more firm and solid. So when we don't know about ourselves, know about how to practice, that it's very difficult. He himself had many difficulties coming to sit in practice and practice meditation, and to know just what is what to do and what not to do. And so we cause ourselves a lot of pain and suffering, and many tears are shed because of this. That in our practice we always miss the middle way, that we either go too high or we either go or we go too low, that we never know what the right amount is. And so this is the cause to continuously throw us off, because we don't know that balance. In regards to the practice, that his observation, having come here, he sees that there are many approaches, there are many teachers, and so many that people don't know what to do. They don't know where to begin or to start, because they're always being thrown about by their doubts about which is the right teacher, which is the best method, and we just spin ourselves around in a continuous state of chaos and confusion, never really knowing what to do, so that we become very complex and never know how to establish ourselves and do a practice which we can follow and stick to. In regards to the practice, that we want to simplify things, and the way we do this is to slow down, and ideally to bring all of our thinking to a very mild state, that because we think so much that we can't penetrate, we can't look in to ourselves because of this confusion that we create with so much thinking. And thinking is not wisdom, so that we have to learn how to get beyond or penetrate through all of this thinking, and just to simplify ourselves down, coming here to just do the simple practice that's offered, that we have, and that's enough. Sitting at home and doing a lot of thinking, have you ever escaped suffering in that way? So that the more you think, the more that you get confused, and the more that you shed tears and cry about the big mess that we have ourselves in. So again, he's re-emphasizing that is not wisdom, that thinking is not wisdom. That the Buddha was a very wise man, and that he pointed the way for us to realize our own wisdom, and that in our thinking process, as long as we continue to indulge in it and don't know how to tranquilize, to make ourselves peaceful through the concentration that we develop, the samadhi, that we can never realize, and wisdom can never have a chance to arise, so that it's only through the tranquilizing, the collecting, and the calming of the mind that it can become still enough so as to allow wisdom to arise. When wisdom truly arises, then that's the Dhamma. When we realize that we can learn to use, or that wisdom and the actual thinking process will in fact be one and the same thing. But until we really do make our minds peaceful so that we can see this clearly, then of course it just runs wild, and we never penetrate into its true nature. In his own practice, in the beginning, he said he was one who was continuously arguing with the teachings of the Buddha, with all teachers, that he constantly would fight, would resist, and would argue with it all of the time. And of course this created a very big problem and confusion in his life. And so as he continued in this way, that he wouldn't believe or trust in anyone, and just this continuous arguing and resisting in himself, and he didn't want to listen to a teacher, he didn't want to listen to Buddha's teachings or anything, and until he really looked within himself and realized that the only way to work with this, the only way to deal with it, was to put some trust and some confidence in a teacher, so that he could have a bit of guidance and direction. So that today he wants to give you a very simple teaching, but the teaching is only simple in the words. So he says to begin that we can close our eyes and relax and sweep through our bodies with our consciousness, with our awareness, from the soles of our feet up to the top of our head, from the top of the head back down to the soles of the feet, and do this several times to relax, to collect ourselves and compose ourselves, and then to start to become aware of the in and out flow of the breath, the natural in and out flow of the breath, not to make it too long, not to make it too short, but let it just follow its natural course, and to concentrate and one point our minds in this way. So the one thing that we have to do, the one responsibility that we have to do in this practice is just to become aware of the in and out flow of the breath, its natural flow, and to let things go. All of the feelings and the thoughts that will come in, not to pay any attention to them, to let them flow in and to let them flow out. And this is how we let go of things, not to force anything, not to make anything tight or forceful, that just to let these things flow naturally, that we just have this one thing to do, to make it simple, to keep it very simple. So as we continue to do this practice, that again, not to force anything, not to let any of the things that arise upset us, even if the breath in its natural flow will go a bit short or a bit long, but just let it flow naturally, and to relax yourselves, let yourselves settle into this practice. And as you settle in, that the breath will begin to refine down, it will become more and more subtle. And it will become so subtle as it refines down that it will become very light and almost unnoticeable, until it does become, in fact, unnoticeable, that it disappears. And this is the beginning stages of peacefulness, of samadhi. That as we do this practice, if we find that we can't settle into it, that the mind is very agitated and restless and wandering about, jumping about, that we can take a very deep inhalation, a complete breath, very deep breath, and then to let it all out again, and to do this 3 or 4 times, and then again let it go to its natural flow. Each time that we feel, or that the mind does become very agitated in this way, that we can use this as an aid to help to calm ourselves down. And the same in walking practice, that if we find that we can't settle into our walking path, that we can stop and do the same thing to one point and bring ourselves right into the present moment until those things go away, and then we can continue our walking. And the same in sitting, when this happens, that we take a very deep inhalation and exhalation to kind of recollect ourselves and begin again. So in the practice, the one who knows is the one who is aware right now, who is looking and being aware right now. The conditions of the mind, as those things come and go, that is the mindfulness, that we're in fact being mindful of them and being the one who knows, so that these two are combined together to look at and to be aware of the movement of the mind as we sit. So that as we sit and develop and train ourselves, that our minds can reach a state which is tranquil and peaceful. And in this state, things that still do arise, that we can be aware of them, and just to note their coming and going. He compares it to like taking a chicken and putting the chicken in the cage, and the chicken can move around in the cage, but that it doesn't go outside of the cage. If it in fact goes outside of the cage, then it is lost, or that it has lost that state of tranquility. So in the same way, the mind, that it's in a tranquil state, but that the movement of the mind, that we're very clear and aware and mindful of it. He says the thing that we must be very careful of and watch for is, of course, when the mind goes out of the cage and goes back home and wanders around the shopping center, a department store, and wherever it might decide to go, and 30 minutes later it decides to come back, and wow, where have I been? And so this is the thing that we must be very cautious about and be on the alert for. So we must be very careful about this and so when the mind does wander and goes outside, that we must know how to pull it back, to bring it back. But he takes that a step further and he says, and in fact, the mind really goes nowhere, that it's right here all of the time. And when we're aware of that, when we're mindful of that movement of the mind is taking place right here, and it really goes nowhere. So that very mindfulness itself is the thing that brings it back, and brings it back to the place that it never left. So that as long as we are mindful of our breath, the in and out flow of the breath, that it doesn't wander, it doesn't go anywhere. But when that mindfulness is destroyed, when that mindfulness falls away, then of course it's as if the mind has gone from its meditation subject, from its mindful point. But as long as we remain mindful of this, that it remains here all the time. So as we sit and develop our practice, that the two things that become apparent are sati, which is mindfulness, and sampajanya, which translates as clearly comprehending, clearly aware of things, that these two go hand in hand. And as we develop this and practice this, he said it's like, uses the simile of two people carrying a heavy piece of wood. And as they're carrying it, that it becomes clear and aware that the mindfulness and the clear awareness of the carrying of this piece of wood is the cause, for the arising of wisdom. And this is the third factor that appears, that comes along to help mindfulness and clear awareness. So as we develop these three factors, the mindfulness, the clear awareness, and the wisdom, that they will reinforce each other and make us very stable in our practice, so that all things that arise in the mind, all conditions of mind, all of the feelings and mental thoughts and moods that arise in the mind, that right away we will recognize them as impermanent, and we won't let them get a hold on us. And as long as we remain firm in this, that all things will come and they will go, that we won't give them a second chance. And but soon as this mindfulness and this our clear comprehension and wisdom factors begin to slacken, that such things will come up as we have doubts about this practice, and we lose ourselves, and we forget ourselves, and we get lost and caught and trapped in doubting and about the practice that we're doing, about other teachers, about other methods. But if we again reestablish ourselves and bring it back into the present moment, that again that will be clearly aware and mindful and know how to deal with these things in the ever-present moment. And as we do develop this practice, that all things that arise in the mind, that we will be clearly comprehending and aware of, and will know how to free ourselves from them, to let these things come in and to let them go out again. The meditation instruction that he's given is enough for right now, and he's going on to the development of the metta aspect of in our lives. And the Thai word that he uses is warmth and generosity. And he says the opposite thing, the thing that obstructs this loving kindness and warmth, understanding and generosity to other beings is of course greed, is lopa. And so we have to start working with this, learn how to share, learn how to be able to perfect our dana aspect in our lives. The dana is generosity, being able to give and to share with other people. He says, but we can contemplate this in the way that we look at ourselves and see that we're hungry and we want things to eat and to have, so we have to learn how to share them. But normally, he says, like if we have, say, 2 apples, he uses the example of 2 apples. and we have a little tiny apple, and we have a nice big juicy apple. And of course we want to share it with our friends, but we don't give them the big juicy one, we give them the little one. And he said this is one way of generosity, but there's still something lacking in that. We're still holding back. And have any of you ever been this way? So in our practice, this example of the two apples, he says that we have to learn to resist or to go against that desire of not wanting to let go, of not wanting to share in a more whole way, a more complete way, to really give up that thing which is the hardest to give up, and to force ourselves to do it. And he said it's only difficult when you sit there and you think about it, you contemplate it, well, I don't really want to give it to him, and on in this vein, that you keep resisting. But then if you go against that flow of not wanting to and just do it, then after you've done it, of course, you feel very good about it. And there's no more to it than just that. And so in this way, we have to train ourselves constantly, learning how to go against that thing which we want to, that we most resist and want to avoid. So this is the way that we can, the word he uses is to conquer ourselves, to become like the champions. And unless we can do this, that of course we lose and we never learn how to overcome these things. That our minds, of course, want to avoid and resist this giving, this generosity, and so that we don't want to do those things. We're selfish, we're stingy, we want to keep everything for ourselves. And so this is a way to develop, this is a way to clean, to wipe away those things which are unclean, which are unwholesome in our minds. So this is one thing that we all should try and develop and make a useful thing in our lives. And some of us may think when we hear this, we're taking advantage, we're exploiting ourselves, and we're not looking after ourselves. But he says, in fact, that's not the case, that you're exploiting and taking and overcoming one's defilements, one's kilesa. He says our kilesa, our defilements, are like a cat, that as long as we continue to feed the cat, that it will keep coming around and meowing and coming to bother us. But right away, when we no longer feed it and refuse to feed it anymore, then it's only a few days and it's going to go away. It will no longer come around to bother us. So to make our defilements afraid of us, not that we shouldn't be afraid of our defilements. So in this way is the way that we can come and study the Dhamma of the Buddha. That you don't have to seek the scriptures, to seek sacred books and things to try and find the Dhamma of the Buddha. That in just this simple example, this simple teaching that he's giving you right now, that if each and every one of us looks into themselves and reflects on this and contemplates it, that we can see this very simple teaching and realize it for ourselves, that we don't have to look to very profound examples and very profound teachings and scriptural quotations from various masters and patriarchs and things, but just from this very simple and down-to-earth kind of approach that we can see and realize for ourselves the Buddha's Dhamma. So these examples that he was giving you in regards to dana, to generosity, he says this is in a material way, how to give things in a material way, give objects, give food, whatever it might be. And so he is talking about a more refined, a more subtle type of giving, and that comes of the giving of one's pride, of one's views and opinions. For example, all of the people here, many of us have studied with different teachers, and probably everybody has their particular method or their particular approach and school that they prefer. Some prefer the Tibetan, some prefer the Zen, some Theravadan. But whatever the case, when we hear other people's teachings and listen to other people, and we think when they're talking, we think, their method is no good, but our method is the best, or that, oh, that's not wrong and ours is right. He said to really look at that and to be generous and to give that up, to let it go, and to be generous in this way, not to cling and to hold to one's stubborn views and opinions and things that you know, but to keep them to yourself and just to listen and not to make yourself very arrogant and proud and haughty, but rather to learn how to give these things up. So that this first aspect that he talked about, the dana aspect, that this is one of the things that we have to develop and perfect on the path to enlightenment. And the next thing that he would like to talk about is the sila, the discipline or the morality aspect of the teaching, the 5 precepts, training precepts, or the 8. And he compares them this to like the mother and the father of the Dhamma, that these are the things which will be conducive to realizing the Dhamma, the things which which are the kind of like the overseers, and to watch over and the Dhamma, so as to protect it and to allow it to arise. So in regards to the precepts, to the training precepts, that he wants to talk about each one of them. And the first one is non-violence, or the non-exploitation of other living things. And this means all living things, from the lowest form of life to the highest form, human beings, down to all animal forms and insects, and includes all sentient beings. And the second is what he says, being respectful of and knowing, respecting others' possessions, and namely not to steal, not to take those things which are not given. The third, he describes the third training precept, the kamesu, the sexual misconduct, that we have to know what the right amount in this is. And so he describes it in the way that they teach it in Thailand, and that's that we should know that when we have a family, we have a wife, and we have a husband, that we should know the right amount in our sexual relationship. That the right amount, he says, that we have to look for ourselves. He's talking about overindulgence. And this overindulgence, of course, that we're not satisfied with our husbands, we're not satisfied with our wives, and so we go and find ourselves another wife, maybe 2 wives, or we go and find ourselves another husband, maybe 2 or 3 husbands. And he says that we have one husband and one wife, and there's more than enough to handle, to look after with one person, let alone creating all of these problems and going out and seeking and indulging with many other people. So we have to really look, and we have to investigate this for ourselves, because please be sympathetic with me. I know this is a very touchy subject, and he says himself that he knows that the situation here. He's been in America enough, and I've told him enough about what it's like. And so he says that we have to develop fidelity, loyalty to one's spouse, that we have to know, the term he uses is the approximation, the right amount, not overindulgence in this thing, in sexuality. And we have to learn to limit ourselves, to restrain ourselves. I'll wait on that. There's another that he brought up before about in sexual relations outside of marriage, but I'll let, I'm sure somebody will ask that and bring it up to that. So he is very strong and is very emphatic with this teaching, the knowing the right amount. And he said that, like in our families and things, that we already have enough to look after in this, just in that way, so that we want to have a limit, something to kind of encase our lives so as we have some direction and guidance. If we step outside of that boundary that we set for ourselves, of course, we just create innumerable problems. And he talked about the other two precepts, mainly the intoxication in those things which lead to intoxication and which cause us to be negligent and unmindful of what we do. He says having a wife and children, having a husband and children in a family, that we're already intoxicated enough with being caught up and looking after and dealing with these things. And he says if you come and add other things such as alcohol or whatever it is to get yourself high, to get yourself stoned, he says that you become more intoxicated, you just create total darkness for yourselves. And so you must, and he says that he's speaking very strongly, and so please forgive me, he says, that I'm speaking so strongly, but that his intentions is coming from the purest intentions, and he only wishes the best for each and every one of you.
ขอโทษด้วยนะ
Forgive me. I don't want to say anything, but the Buddha told me to. So as we develop, as we purify our sila, that we will begin to reap and the fruits, the results of the purification of our sila, and that we will experience the joy and the happiness, the serenity that comes from having purified one's sila, and that whatever we do, that will be very happy, in a very happy state, and that the harmony, the peace and harmony that we will have in our lives will be indeed great, that everywhere thing that we do, everywhere that we go, that we will be what we could say temporarily contented and happy. And but he says, and he compares this to having entered heaven, a heavenly state, and so that we become like Mr. and Mrs. Tevada. And Tevada is like a celestial being or a deity, and this is, of course, a anthropomorphic way of a simile, a way of talking about our mental happiness that is the result from having relinquished those things which are bad, which are unwholesome, which are evil, and having developed those things which are good, which are wholesome. And so he says, when people do develop this, that you have to take it a step further, that when people have reaped the fruits of purifying their sila in this way, that they tend to forget themselves in it. They tend to lose themselves in that happiness. And he says, this is a danger, this is something that we must be careful of, that very happiness that we're experiencing is the like closing the door or putting the unhappiness because of the characteristic of this happiness, that it is impermanent, that it's like not letting us see the other side, that when this changes, that we can then experience unhappiness and suffering. So we must be very careful to look deeper into this happiness and not to lose ourselves in it, not to forget ourselves in it, but to, as we experience it and the results of these good deeds, that we don't attach or cling too tightly to them, and we know how to look into them deeper and know that this as well is a changing condition, that is an uncertain thing. So as we continue to investigate and to look into ourselves and see the impermanent nature of this happiness and see the impermanent nature of the unhappiness, that these things continue to change and that they're uncertain, that the mind begins to turn away from those things, that dispassion arises, that we turn away and become fed up, no longer wish to reap those results and to indulge in these things. And as we turn away and detachment sets in, that we, a very peaceful and tranquil state will arise in our minds. So as when this dispassion, detachment sets in, that we turn away from all things, that we no longer want to be reborn, we no longer want to be born again. He said that all of the things that each and every one of us is experiencing here, coming to sit, all of the things that we're having to deal with, having to put up with and suffer through, he says, come, this is what we can call the fruit of past actions, of things that we have done in the past. And this is the law, or you can say the law of karma, manifesting itself, that we've in the past put in these conditions to reap and to for the result and the fruits and things that we're reaping right now. So that we have to learn to deal with these things and understand and know that this is a natural law, that it arises from a cause. And when there's causes, there's going to continue to be effects, or there's going to continue to be the results from those causes. And this we call the law of karma. So that today he has spoken about quite a bit, and that this is his first trip here to America. So he sees that there's many things to say, and that he wants to leave you with, to pass on to all of you. And so once again he said, if you're unhappy or with what he has said, that not to blame him and to put the blame on him, but to rather to put the blame on the Buddha, because he's the one that told him to say it. He says today he thinks if he was like shooting birds, he says he thinks that he would have hit every one of them today. Is that right? So today this is all that he has to say, and that now it is your responsibility to take these things upon yourself, to investigate them, to contemplate them, and to work with them for yourselves, to know those things which are good and bad, know those things which are right and wrong. And he said that in your development of your practice, he said to relinquish those things which are bad and unwholesome. He says you don't have to let anybody see that or know that. He says that you can just sweep them away and clean them away in yourself, and you don't have to make a big thing out of it and let other people know, but just to continue your practice in this way, continue to develop that which is wholesome, which is good, and to continue to relinquish, to let go of those things which are unwholesome and bad. He says he's a monk that likes to speak very directly and to get right to the point, and not to do that, he says, is not useful for anything, and really no real value or positive result will arise from it. So he said if nobody's willing to listen to his direct, immediate teaching, that he can just finish and quit right here, and that would be fine as well. That in our practice, in our meditation, that we should reflect on the bell and make ourselves like the bell, that the bell just sits here very still and very quiet, but that it has the potential to make noise, to make a sound, so that when something comes to contact the mind or through any of the senses, through the eyes, through the ear, through the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mental states that will come to contact this, that when it arises, that immediately we know it, and we see it for what it is, and then that it passes, and again we become still and quiet, just like the bell sitting here very silently.